We have once again returned to the age-old Star Citizen discussion of PvP versus PvE. And with all of the new events from Supply or Die, or the new one coming up in 4.1 with the worms and the lasers, players are out once again in force, complaining about quote-unquote griefers, and clamoring for PvP and PvE servers. Spectrum is full of threads like this. Reddit is the same as well. The majority of the threads are largely just typical crybaby stuff, but there is an underlying truth to every single one of them. And that truth is that ganking is happening now more than ever. I do not believe that PvE and PvP server divides are the answer. I'm very much against that. But throughout all of this, nobody on either side of the aisle is asking, why is this happening? Why are so many players just attacking each other on site? The first, and I think the most obvious answer, is that there's nothing else to really do in Star Citizen. Nothing at all. It's ultimately a very boring experience right now. Even with all of the new content that they add, you probably get more fun from ganking people doing the content than you do doing the content itself. And I admit, I have my own bias. PvE doesn't get me going. It's not something I care about. I know that when I go there, I'm personally not really going there as anything other than a tourist. I might check it out once, maybe twice. But any other time I return there, I'm just going there to gank other players. That's not a me issue. That's not an issue with other players either. That's a game design issue. That's a Star Citizen issue. Idle hands are the devil's playthings. And without any real meaningful content to do, players are going to default to killing one another. It's simply the most engaging and entertaining content for a lot of these people, myself included. The second reason why this is happening is that, and I've said this before in the past, Star Citizen is a low-trust society. Just like you wouldn't go and make night deposits in Harlem or Detroit or Gary, Indiana, or maybe even PG County, Maryland, you really wouldn't go somewhere and trust a random stranger in Stanton or Pyro. It would not be wise. It would be asking for trouble. I don't know if Star Citizen wants the game to become Gary, Indiana in space. But right now, that is what it is. So, since Star Citizen is a low-trust society, the safest thing for you to do is shoot first and ask questions later. I can actually relate to this and tell you a story recently that happened, and I have the footage on in the background. I went over to go check out the new content. I was doing the worms and the laser, making the hologround, and all that. So I rolled in there with my org. We went in there on PTU rather, checked it out. We ended up ganking some guy named Stormcrow and Miss Stormcrow and his org, and they had a melty in global chat because they were over there ganking people too, so we just happened to out-gank them. And you can see their lovely reaction here in global chat that I screenshotted for everybody to enjoy. But after we were done ganking them, we went on the ground and we carried out the mission. We had several of our own guys in the sky keeping an eye out with radar, because that's just how the game works, is when you're on the ground, you're completely defenseless. Our guys in the sky are reporting radar contacts. People come in, and then once they come in, we get a name on them, and then we check them up on Spectrum to see if they're from any organization that we know. We go ahead to make sure that they're in a redacted or not redacted org, whatever. We're trying to identify who they are and judge on how we want to handle them. Each one that flies in makes a radar contact, sees our guys in the area, and then leaves. Now, we had no intention of shooting them, but they did not know that. How could they know that? So these are other players, other customers that are playing the game, and they are now being locked out of content by me and my organization, even though it's not our intent, because we would have allowed them to do the content with us, because we were on PTU. We just wanted to see it as much as they wanted to see it. But since it was being ganked before, and we had to show up there to clear the gankers to go check it out, these people just assumed that they would suffer the same fate. As we progressed the content, we ended up firing the laser. Pretty cool event. Laser shoots a hole in the ground. We then move out and go check out the hole and go down inside. Again, eyes in the sky. They're talking about this. They're saying, hey, there's some more people coming in. Now, I want these people to land and come check this out. It's interesting. They want to see this stuff. But I couldn't just talk in global chat, because remember, Star Citizen is a low-trust society and doesn't have good chat options or anything like that. But if I was to say, hey, we're not going to attack you, come down here and land and check it out, We've all heard, is JT safe? The answer is yes, people show up and get ganked. There's always that possibility. But let's say they did trust us and they did land, and we all get out of our ships to go explore the cave. The people that are not friendly are going to see that in global chat, and they're going to come and gank all of us on the ground. So, by trying to cooperate with random strangers, which you wouldn't do in the first place since the game is a low-trust society, you're actually ringing the dinner bell to come get ganked by other players. The point of this story is to help you understand all of the issues going into Star Citizen right now, and why people feel like it's a ganker's paradise. Because it is. It's because that's how you have to play the game. Until Star Citizen has some form of team system or faction system, the game will always be this way. There must be a reliable way to tell friend from foe. Now, you might say to yourself, or say to me, oh, but the reputation system will fix this. The reputation system will not fix anything. This is a game that is full of alt accounts. Prison didn't stop anything. Prison never stopped me from ganking people inside of hangars or randomly destroying them just because I was bored. I'd go to prison and get out. Or I log onto one of my 7 alts that I have and go gank some more without any consequence. There are people like me that have 7 or more alts out there. The purpose of my alts is not to gank players, although that is sometimes what I use it for. But the purpose of my alts is because I get the referral bonuses. I want the LTI tokens because CIG has created this economy out of game where you want LTI, you want ships with LTI, you want these tokens, and I could refer a friend, but all of my friends already play the game. So instead of begging my friends for referral codes, I just go and buy a new account, make a new email, and boom, now I have another alt account. So reputation's not going to stop that. If you want to gank somebody, you're going to use an alt to do it if you do not want to use your main. And this is not like an MMORPG where your character is locked behind gear and level. Your alt account is just as powerful as your main account. Just give it a ship that's combat viable. Let's face it, there's really only one, the Hornet, and you're set to go. So the only way to fix this, to address this, is not through convoluted systems that we've already proven do not work. I often wonder sometimes if CIG play actual MMO games or have played them, or if they've actually participated in killing players on a regular basis in other games. Because they know the mentality. If they did, they would understand the mentality, and they would understand that you're going to find a way no matter what. So the game has to have some form of structure, which is what Star Citizen lacks, is a structure. And people will talk about, oh, well, it's a sandbox, it doesn't need a structure. I've never played a sandbox that does not very quickly deteriorate into a litter box in the absence of some form of structure. And the final thing I want to touch on is, well, why aren't people doing PvP? Why aren't people fighting for what they believe in or, to see the content? I don't really want to talk about the forever bads, the eternal casuals out there that just don't want to put the effort in, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can be that person. But I think a lot of people, even normal folk, just find Star Citizen's PvP to not be very fun. I think the FPS side of things is actually pretty fun, and with Tier 0 and some of the respawn changes, they've taken steps to getting more players into the FPS section of the game. But the space combat side, it's still not very enjoyable. The ships are imbalanced, the skill discrepancy between your average player and your no-lifer is huge, the game is not very intuitive, it's hard to understand, so people they feel hopeless, and when they feel hopeless, they just don't want to fight back. And that's just ignoring imbalance issues. I mean, hell, what is a guy in, say, a Cutlass going to do against a guy in a Hornet, an F7A Hornet? Or what's a guy in a heavy fighter going to do against a meta fighter? They're probably going to get dumpstered. So your options right now are be inside of a Polaris, where nobody can really hurt you, especially because you can't get rammed anymore, or be inside of one of the meta fighters. These are two of the complete opposite ends of the spectrum. We've got a single-seat fighter and what is supposed to be a multi-crew capital ship. Everything else in between is completely worthless. But I'm willing to bet that the majority of the player base, when they're in the PU, is in some form of utility ship, like a C1 or a Cutlass Black, or some kind of ship that does more than just dogfight. So if they want to do all the aspects of the PU, they have to accept that if they are not in that metaship, they're meat. They're content for the single seat fighters. So people just don't bother. They say, screw this, I'll go do something else. I've given you guys my opinions and what I think are potential solutions to these problems, and I'm not as egotistical or arrogant to assume that my ideas are the right ideas or the only ideas, but they are just that, they're ideas and opinions. But until Star Citizen adds some form of structure, understands and realizes player mentality and how players play games, especially PvP-focused players, and then, after doing all that, understands that the flight model and the PvP in general has to be more accessible to the average bad. That's what they are, the average bad. The complaining and the turmoil and the divide will never end. So, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you PvP? Do you PvE? Is there something stopping you from PvPing but you would like to? Let's have a discussion about it. Thank you for watching.